What was the radio station that you heard when you were a kid, or when you first realized that something was going on with the audio and how it was being manipulated?
I always appreciated sound, and I didn't really get processing until my first radio job. And I had to fix a gate stay level and got it working again. And what it did was really fascinated. You know, it fascinated me. So I started to experiment, and next thing, you know, start building things, and went downhill from there.
What about you, Steve?
It was in the very early days of commercial radio in Britain, which actually didn't start until the early 70s, amazingly enough. And a company I was working with installed a number of the first few stations, and I ended up going to work for one for a while. It's down in South Wales, Swansea Sound it was called. Now, the thing about commercial radio there was you were not allowed to mess with the air chain at all. Nothing in the way. But the BBC, who of course are our competition, did. So we sounded lame. So I thought and scratched about this and tried various things on the AM, which was the weaker part. And broadband, no, it didn't really work. And then I built this nasty little die-cast box, about this by this, called Eddystone boxes they were. And it had a 3-band analog crossover and, you know, cheap, nasty little transistor limiters, and then recombined afterwards. And yes, this helped the AM a lot. I mean, by today's standards, it was grotesque, but then, you know, it got us back up there with the BBC. As far as I know, that thing's still in the bottom of a rack somewhere in South Wales.
Oh, that's cool. Wow. That would be very cool if you could get a hold of that. One of my favorite air chains of all time, WNBC in New York, used audio and design limiters in a 3-band that was designed by one of the NBC engineers. So along with
the
some
transdynamic.
Yeah, along with some Innovonics stuff. Mm-hmm. And that sound was one of the things that got me into processing and why the station sounded larger than live.
Yeah, I had, I think it was 1973 or 74, where I grew up. I could listen to CKLW at night, and they came in there like gangbusters, and I just couldn't figure out how to get that sound. And just out of frustration, I got the broadcasting yearbook, and I looked up CKLW, and I saw who the engineer was, and I called up and asked for Ed Buderbaugh, and he spent 15 minutes on the phone explaining what he was doing, and I had never heard of multiband processing before. And he said, well, you know how crossovers in speaker systems work, right? And I said, yeah. He said, well, think about if you put some crossovers in front of some limiters. It's like the light bulb went off.
Yeah.
Then it went really downhill from there. So, yeah.